Look up the word goth in a dictionary and you might find something like someone wearing black clothing, black and white makeup, and one defective in taste. But how accurate is that? Well, today we're looking at goth culture. Hi, I'm Justine and this is Bookends. Today I'm going to chat with Liisa Ladouceur about her new book, Encyclopedia Gothica. It is, as it sounds, an encyclopedia on gothdom. Now read it and you might learn things like emo is not goth. And today we're at an amazing shop in Kensington Market called Play Dead Cult. Let's go check it out. So I'm with Liisa Ladouceur, author of Encyclopedia Gothica. Liisa, thanks so much for meeting up with us today.
Thank you for having me here.
So I want to start at the very beginning. What is it that attracted you to gothdom originally?
Oh, nice. Start easy, why don't you? Well, I was never attracted to gothdom because there was no gothdom to be attracted to.
Yeah.
I was attracted to certain bands, and through those bands I discovered clothes and books and magazines and stuff like that. But I lived in a small town, I was a teenager, and there was no goth scene for me to discover until quite a bit later. So it was really more an attraction to certain kinds of music, certain kinds of images and aesthetics that I found pleasing, which were things that were dark or macabre. And then it was only later that I sort of found out it was called goth and that there was a whole scene about it.
Yeah, so was there a moment when one day you said, I'm a goth?
No.
No.
Well, someone asked me that recently, and I think maybe it's the day my book came out.
Really?
I don't know. I mean, I've always sort of said that I was like not a capital G goth, like not an uber goth. Mm-hmm. But I've always been super interested in it. As a journalist, there haven't been that many opportunities to write about it over the years, except at Halloween and for the while that Nine Inch Nails and Marilyn Manson were popular. But it's like asking a unicorn why they have horns, right? It's like, I don't know.
No.
Uh-oh. What do you got there?
I got a dictionary here with me.
Awesome. I love dictionaries.
Now, you talk about this at the beginning of the book, that if you look up the word goth in a dictionary,
yes.
You might find something like, like Oxford Dictionary, someone favoring black clothing, black and white makeup, and metal jewelry, and apocalyptic music, or an uncivilized or ignorant person.
I know.
That doesn't say much, does it? I mean, can you define gothdom in a sentence or two like this in a dictionary?
Well, I don't think so. That's why I wrote a whole book.
Yeah.
If you look up the word goth in my encyclopedia, it says see pages 1 to 299.
Yeah.
Like, I feel that you can boil it down to music and white makeup and graveyards, but then you're missing out on so much.
Why do you think that it's so difficult to define, what it means to be goth?
Because there are so many different kinds, and it has evolved so much through the ages. I mean, goth in 1980 in England meant a lot different, had a different definition than it would in 2011 in Toronto or Tokyo. Means different things to different people. So I think you're doomed to fail when you try to define it, because you're just going to offend someone.
Yeah. Why did you decide to do this then? To try to define what it is, what it is to be goth.
Well, I don't know if I wanted to define it so much as document it. It is formed like a dictionary, like an encyclopedia, and it is meant to explain, if you read it, what the culture is all about. But for me, it was more about taking it seriously, the way someone would if they were writing a real dictionary, mm-hmm. but doing it on a subculture and putting in words and phrases that outsiders might not know. So my impetus to write the book was really, I kind of wanted to write my own dictionary.
Why did you decide to do it this way, A through Z?
Because no one's done it before. There are other books about goth, and some very good ones, that talk about the history of goth and the goth music. You can look up bands from all around the world. You can read about why people dress in black, sociology essays, all kinds of things. But no one had ever made a dictionary.
Yeah.
And I thought that would be my thing to do, because I'm so into dictionaries.
Now, one thing that I definitely found when I was reading this is that it doesn't read like a dictionary or an encyclopedia. You don't feel like you're reading A to Z, which is a good thing.
Okay.
I mean, it's readable, right? It's not like you're going, okay, I'm on B. Okay, now I'm on C. How did you go about doing that, making it so fluid?
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that. It wasn't intentional. Some people do read it A through Z, one chapter at a time. Most people will hop around.
Yeah.
They'll read something and it'll spark a memory or a question, and they'll go and try and find the answer to that on another page. The first thing I did was come up with a list of words, and then I worked on it letter by letter.
Do you think that you can better define a culture being an insider like yourself?
You can certainly study other cultures from outside. Sociologists do it, anthropologists do it all the time. To some degree of success, you can go in and find the truth and report that to other people. I think there's something to be said for writing from the inside. If I wanted to read a book about prison slang, I'd rather read about it from someone who went to prison, you know? And I feel the same way about Goths. I mean, Goths are so often, I don't want to use the word misunderstood because frankly I don't care if I'm understood, but misrepresented on things like mainstream television, tabloid talk shows, by people who just kind of don't get it. So I wanted to be the antidote to that. For me, it was a way to really dig into things that I already knew, discover things that I didn't know, and find a way to express with humor, I hope, this sort of insider jokes and sort of let people in on them.
When outsiders are talking about, you know, what is goth, it seems like dress is such a big thing, like what it says in the dictionary. Dress seems to be such an important defining definition of being goth to outsiders. But, I mean, is dress all that important for goths themselves?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah?
I mean, you can listen to goth music, read goth books, and identify yourself as a goth, even if you don't walk around in August wearing a cloak. But most people who are goth look that way. They may outgrow it later. They may become a recovering goth or an elder goth, and they don't crimp their hair anymore. But there is a desire to express one's, you know, internal interests outwardly in the same way that people get tattoos. And it does look different to other people, especially the more outrageous goth styles, Gothic Lolita, cyber goths, and so on. And so, of course, people who don't know are going to think that goth is about dressing that way. Also, I mean, the mall goth phenomena, Hot Topic, and teenagers who dress that way, and you know, they didn't really know too much about the rest. They were really sort of in it for the look. I mean, that affected people's perceptions, I think, as well. I mean, I don't care. Like, if you're just in it for the clothes, I'm not judgy. I think you'd make the world a more interesting place dressing up like that. But I do notice, for example, the whole Gothic Lolita phenomenon is very much about the clothes and not really so much about anything else. So each generation and each sort of subculture has their own way.
But you were saying yourself, music is a big thing for you. I mean, how important was that for you as you were writing this book to define goth music and the various, you know, subgenres within that?
Well, there is a heavy bias on music in the book because that's my passion and my area of expertise. So there's a lot more entries on bands than there are on comic books, for example. You know, the Cocteau Twins entry is a lot longer than the Neil Gaiman entry. And other people may question that or argue about that, but they can go and write their own book. For me, it wasn't a struggle to define genres because those are already, for the most part, well established. And the same thing about band biographies. I mean, you can wiki The Cure. But what I tried to do was really highlight the uber-gothness of a particular act or not, and point out some of the things that I thought were significant either to me as a listener or to the evolution of the genre.
There are so many subgenres that you mentioned in the book. There's trad goth, there's cyber goth, you already mentioned Gothic Lolita. The music and the dress differs so much within those subgenres. What do you think it is that links them all together? What is it that makes them all goth? Like, is there an answer?
They all wish they had a coffin at home? I don't know. I don't know what a guy who listens to Nine Inch Nails and Ministry has in common with a Gothic Lolita, a teenager. I'm not sure. Other than they all self-identify using this one word.
Yeah.
You'd have to ask a sociologist about that.
Huh.
Yeah, about tribes, you know, and sort of these subcultures unify or not. I mean, there's micropolitics, like scene bullshit, you know, in goth as in anything else, and people, I don't like you because you shop at Hot Topic or whatever. I don't care about stuff like that. I'm interested in language, you know, not in, this sort of like bickering stuff.
There's a lot of also talk in your book about posers, and you guys have so many names, like there's Kindergoth, Mall Goth you mentioned. What is the cookie one? Doom Cookie. What is it about posers that, I don't know, is it insulting or to goths? It seems that way.
I don't really care. You know, maybe it's because I'm older, but there's this thing, I mean, we spend so much time trying to define what is goth. This is a very important question that, of course, we're going to also try and define what is not goth. And like most, you know, civilizations of the world over, we tend to be judgmental of people who don't look like us, who don't have the same beliefs. So why goths have half a dozen different words for poser instead of just one, call them poser. is probably a reflection of how important it is for them to define Gothdom.
But how then, if it's so sort of difficult to define Gothdom, how do you measure authenticity then?
How do you measure authenticity? I'm glad that's not my job.
Yeah.
Because everyone's going to have different criteria for that.
You also mentioned that some of the truest goths, and you talk about musicians, are ones who always deny that they're goth.
Sure.
I mean, is there something behind that?
I joke about that in the book. Not really. Any musician, any artist, ask them, they don't want to be defined. They don't want to put in a box. They don't want to be put in a box. Because if you claim, yes, I am this, it means you cannot also be something else. Mm-hmm. And most artists see themselves as, creative creatures who can't be stuck into one definition, and I respect that about them. I've started to ask goth musicians exactly why, and I met Stephen Severin, who is from Susie and the Banshees, which is a totally goth band, although they do predate goth, which you'll see in the goth family tree. I put them in punk rock. But I asked him, why do you reject this word goth? And he said, have you seen MySpace? Like, have you seen pictures and music by people who do identify as goth? It's terrible. And of course he's right. He said, we're gothic. Joy Division was gothic, but we're not goth. And I sort of blame this on Marilyn Manson in terms of defining goth in one way for people that other artists maybe didn't want to be associated with that sort of sound, look, that sort of box. I met Peter Murphy last week. I gave him a copy of my book. And we call him the Goth Father, as the singer of Bauhaus, that he's like the guy. He's like, I was never goth. Now, come on. Of course he is. But he has the right to say that. Sure. Yeah.
I want to try something fun.
Are you quizzing me?
Okay, wait, no.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to do goth points.
Goth points, okay.
Yes. Okay.
But the goth points are made up, so this is just off the top of my head.
And I got these some of these from your book.
Okay.
But just to have some fun here, let's see how many goth points you have. Although I don't know.
Oh, you're asking me. Okay.
Have you ever had a picnic at a cemetery?
Sure. Yes.
You have.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever pulled the taffy or kicked the Smurf?
I'm not a kick the Smurf dancer.
Now I know pulling the taffy is like a.
Pulling the taffy is a more goth thing. Kicking the Smurf's kind of more an industrial thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I pull the taffy, sure.
Do you own a pair of creepers, buckle boots, Mary Janes, winkle pickers, I love those, or docks?
I've never owned creepers. I've had all the rest.
Winkle pickers, I love winkle pickers.
Well, actually, probably I have not had winkle pickers. It's a kind of like it's more of a British word for a buckle boot, kind of.
Or a buckle, okay.
Yeah, but I've had all those, yeah.
Do you like Twilight?
No. Although the first book was very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know the words to the theme song of The Nightmare Before Christmas?
Everyone.
Ah.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think about you gives you most ghost points? Goth points.
Writing this book? I guess. I don't know. Yeah. It's a joke. I mean, I don't really keep track. Although
no.
I do subtract. I am judgy.
Oh, really? Like flip-flops?
Like flip-flops.
Like where that's minus 2 points.
Minus a lot.
You have a few other recommendations here. Why don't we go through these?
Sure.
What's that first one there?
The first one is called The Hex Files, Goth Bible, and it was kind of the original Goth Bible written by Mick Mercer. He is a sort of punk rock, goth expert photographer and writer in the UK, and this was kind of like before the internet, where you would go to find the name of all the bands and all the clothing stores and fan clubs and everything to do with goth. Worldwide Gothic by Natasha Sharf is brand new. It only came out a few months ago, the same time as my book, and it is a global look at Gotham. So she tells the history of the culture and the music throughout the whole world, not just focusing on LA and London, but also Canada and other countries in Europe, and as much as possible that she could dig up in the rest of the world. And the photos are sumptuous. They're beautiful photos of gorgeous goth girls and boys. Goth Bible by Nancy Kilpatrick, who is also Canadian. Well, she's American, but she lives in Montreal for a long time, so we've claimed her now. Was really the first study about the goth culture from within. She talks to actual goths, she surveyed them about their lives, and it was really kind of a book about insight into goth at a time when, it was kind of under fire and misunderstood. And it remains a pretty good read for people who just want to understand a little bit more about why people do what they do.
The last one here, Paint It Black.
Yeah, this little one by Voltaire, Paint It Black. Voltaire is a musician and a visual artist and a writer from the New York area who is hilarious. And he has a book called Oh My Goth. And this particular one, Paint It Black, is all kinds of tips on how to gothify your house, specifically on a budget or for young people in terms of painting things and making your own velvet curtains and zombifying your dolls and things like that. So it's a fun gift to give to a baby bat or a young person, I think.
Liisa, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So you can find all the info on these 4 books as well as Liisa's book on our website, bookendstv.com.